What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So I was sitting in my office today and I was just glancing over at my bookshelf, and I had the idea come to mind to talk about some of my favorite books on my bookshelves. So this video is 5 of my favorite books from my bookshelf, plus one bonus that I'll go over at the end that I'm reading right now. Here we go. So coming in at number 1 is the Woodwind Anthology. And actually, this is a volume set. So this first one has nothing but flute articles in it. I mean, look at how thick this is. This is a giant book. All of these articles were previously in the Instrumentalist or the Flute Talk magazines that were out pretty substantial long time ago. But regardless, a lot of this information holds true. All of it pretty much holds true to this day. So like I said, the first one is nothing but flute articles. I mean, I can even go through and look at some of these. I actually have tabbed off. Let's take a look at it. So apparently I was interested in the Flutist Daily Warm-Up at some point by Beatrice Carum. I think I'm saying that right. This article, you can see here, was written in September 1984. And if I go to the next tab here, we also have Flute Intonation by John Knight. And this is written in 1989. So once again, it's a wonderful resource for flute players out there. But other woodwinds, we haven't forgotten about you as well. Like I said, this is a 2-volume set. So if we look here, same book. This one has oboe, bassoon, clarinet, and saxophone articles in them. So actually, if you look here, I have them all kind of tabbed out. I like to sectionalize them or have them by sections. And of course, I got all kinds of stuff on articles that I thought were probably useful for me. So if you have the resources to acquire this, I'm not sure if they still sell this. I'll leave a link in the description if I can find it somewhere. But this is a wonderful series of books. All right, number 2 on my list is The Complete Arranger by Sammy Nestico. So a few years ago, or actually many years ago, I was taking an arranging class, and this was one of the required texts that I had for the class. And let me tell you, it was definitely a lifesaver. So within this book, it has all the, for example, instrumental ranges for every single instrument. It goes over different arranging techniques. Of course, if you don't know, Sammy Nestico is the king, at least in my opinion, of arranging for jazz, big band, concert band, all kinds of different ensembles. He's definitely a role model to look up to, and this book contains it all. I mean, if you open it up here, we see a nice little autograph by Sammy Nestico, some pictures here. But like I said, we could turn to the table of contents. It has all the woodwinds, saxophone family, brass family, rhythm, writing and arrangement. We're talking about multi-tracking, orchestration. Just runs the complete gamut of arranging a tune, and then it will also help you if you're into composing tunes as well. So once again, this is a highly recommended book. It's a little pricey. I think at the time I paid $100 for it, but definitely well worth it. All right, coming in at number 3 is The Savvy Musician by Tim Cutler. So I actually talked about this book before. I'll leave a link to it somewhere up here. A few years ago, I took a class for my master's degree. That class was music entrepreneurship. And in that class, one of the required texts was The Savvy Musician. I definitely gained the most, I would probably say, of all the required texts from this book in particular. For me, it was definitely an easy read. It gave me a lot of ideas to think outside of the box and think outside of what I was currently thinking of. You know, as a musician this day and age, it's not enough to just play your instrument well, know a couple of people, network. You kind of have to promote yourself, self-promotion, social media, connecting streams of social media, things that are a little foreign to me at first, but I'm sure this generation has a better grasp of it. But this book goes into great detail about different things regarding music entrepreneurship. So once again, this is a great book. I'll leave a link down in the description to the video I did before on it, but I highly recommend it. So the next book that I recommend, I actually don't have a physical copy. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport. So this book isn't necessarily geared specifically for a musician, but like all books, I like to take what I can and apply it to my life as a musician. Without this turning into like an Audible or I guess Amazon commercial, I have this in the audiobook format. where I used to live in Louisiana, I would have an hour-long trip to work and an hour-long trip back. So 2 hours out of my day was spent in my car. And that's when I really got into Audible. Once again, not to turn it into a commercial for them, but it was really helpful in passing the time and without wasting it and trying to stay awake and everything, listening to audiobooks and at least getting a little bit more out of that commute to work. Now, audiobooks do have their downside. For me, I like to sometimes write in the margin, or especially if they have a list of things. Obviously, with it being in an audiobook format, I can't just, turn to a certain page in a book and go to that list. But it is definitely beneficial on those long commutes to work. So anyway, getting back to the book, what I gather most out of it for me, and I don't want to make generalizations about everybody, but I would go through periods of where I would try to practice my instruments or study or whatever it may be, and find myself looking at my cell phone or just randomly checking it. And it talks a little bit about how, a lot of times this day and age, people can't get into a deep state of work where you're concentrating on one thing at a time. There's a lot of things going on in a lot of people's minds, and I am definitely one of those people. So anyway, check out this book. It's definitely highly recommended. And last but definitely not least on this list of books is one called Tools for Titans by Tim Ferriss. So if you haven't heard of Tim Ferriss before, he's the author of The 4-Hour Work Week. I think he has one called The 4-Hour Body and all kinds of other things like that. Kind of getting into the realm of entrepreneurship and finding the way, I guess, to live your best life. But this book is not actually a music book. But I had a couple of videos ago, maybe a few days, weeks ago, I can't even remember now, where I talked about getting tired of music. I will never be tired of music, but it goes through phases where if I solely concentrate on music, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I like to do things sometimes outside of music and get into the minds of influential people. So if we look in this book, it's a thick one to start with, but it goes through the interviews many different personalities in the world today. I mean, if we look at this list, I'll read a couple of names. We got Jamie Foxx, Whitney Cummings, Peter Diamond, Seth Godin, I think I said his name right, BJ Novak, all a list of people, and he interviews them and gets insights into their lives on maybe what makes them successful or just their general mindset and way of thinking. I think it's beneficial to have. Check out this book by Tim Ferriss, Tools of Titans. And of course, I said I had one more book for you. This one I'm currently reading. It is called The Conductor as Leader by Ramona M. Wiss. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. So if you didn't know, I'm a conductor for a Marine band here in Okinawa, Japan, the 3 Marine Expeditionary Force Band. I serve as the director and officer in charge of this band, and obviously principal conductor. And this is a book that kind of combines principles of leadership and combines that with conducting and philosophy, I guess, of conducting and, your role as a conductor. So far, it's pretty good. If you've read any John C. Maxwell books on leadership, it's almost like it combines that realm of thinking with your position as a conductor. But I will say this, it's not even just as a conductor. If you have any kind of leadership role in music, I think it's very beneficial to read. I'm only a little bit into it now. You can probably see the the highlighted sections. I write some things into the margins. But sometimes as musicians, we can get caught up in a role of me. It's a lot of individual things with you in a practice room alone, shedding away, playing scales, working on your tone, working on your sight reading, all kinds of things. It's very inward focused, and sometimes you become a musical leader in an aspect and you forget all those things that are involved with leading people, being more of a servant leader, whereas maybe your beginning a life as a musician was really focused on yourself. So I don't know, maybe I'll review this one a little bit later when I complete it. So far, it's been a great book. I'm looking forward to finishing it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Check out the links below, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Out.